Hi, I'm Nicolene Peck. I teach self-government parenting all over the world, and in this video we're going to talk about how to help a child regulate their emotions. In this video, I'm going to share 7 tips for how you can help your child regulate emotions, and I'm going to share a personal story from when I used to do foster care. So years ago, I did treatment foster care for troubled teens. They were all between the ages of 12 and 18, and they had a myriad of different processing disorders that they were dealing with. So there was ADHD, OCD, ODD, RAD, kleptomania, there was sensory processing issues, autism spectrum, all kinds of things that these youth were dealing with that came to my home. And many times they had also been abused and had a backstory that led to them having some emotional and psychological baggage that they were carrying with them. Well, one young woman that came to my home who had been very mistreated. She'd been abandoned for quite some time and then had also been abused by another one of the caretakers. She had this strange fear of ever doing anything wrong, literally anything. Now, maybe she was a perfectionist anyway by nature, but just because of her history of abuse and neglect, she also really had a legitimate fear that would well up inside of her every single time that she felt like she had done anything wrong, and she would run and get things to suck on, and she had certain behaviors that were maybe not the normal, a little peculiar things that she would do that were almost infant type behaviors every time that she felt like she was going to be corrected for something. Now, this child definitely was immature for her age, and she needed some help with the maturing process and multiple other things. She needed bonding. She needed some love and attention that was done in a positive way. There were a lot of things happening within her that needed help. But what I recognized because of this one particular behavior that kept repeating every time she was about to be corrected for a problem was that she had an emotion that was getting the better of her and that we needed to discuss it. So there were many things we were dealing with. The first thing we did was we taught her skills. So we taught her how to follow instructions, accept no answers, accept consequences, disagree appropriately, key things that a person is going to need to be able to master and self-govern themselves. That's what I teach, self-government. And so we started out with those basics, but then we knew that we had to help her take those basics and use them for this emotional pain that she would feel every time she was faced with the possibility that she had done something wrong. So we went through a 7-step process with this foster daughter to help her master this emotion, this fear that happened anytime that she felt like she wasn't perfect. And I'd like to share that 7-step process with you right now. Step number 1 was to have some good open communication. So we decided to have a special meeting with her. I call it a parent counseling meeting, where we sat down and we talked about just this one issue. We talked about instances where she would have this feeling of fear and what she did and thought during this time. The second thing we did during this time of open communication was had a focus on honesty. So at first she would say really vague things like, well, it just makes me feel bad because of this. And we told her that's not necessarily the honest truth, because you always get to choose how you are going to feel based on any thought that comes into your head. So let's only communicate honestly. At that point, she was able to say, when someone starts to talk to me about something I've done wrong, I choose to start worrying, or my hands start to get sweaty, and then I start to worry. And sometimes I stop listening and I just start worrying. So we worked her through the process, talking her through an incident that she could remember from earlier that day, so that she could choose to write down each of the things that happened to her, so that later when they occur, she could choose not to do those things because she knew what was going to come next. The third thing that we did was help her identify triggers. So one key trigger that she was able to identify was sweaty hands. So if she started getting sweaty hands, that meant that she was starting to feel stressed. And if she felt the sweaty hands, she needed to have something to say so that she would not cater to the thoughts of fear and stress inside, but she would instead start down another path and follow another plan to solving this problem, being able to use some of the skills that would benefit her instead of falling in this trap of emotion and anxiety again. So she chose to say, I have sweaty hands, I'm feeling stressed and anxious right now, I need to get calm. So she gave herself an instruction to get calm. Even out loud, she would say that. And we knew that when she said that we were going to give her a minute to get calm at that time. And then we would talk about whatever the situation was. So let's review our steps so far. Step number 1, open communication. Step number 2, make sure it's also honest communication. Step number 3 is identify triggers. Maybe it's a thought trigger, or maybe it's some sort of a sensation or physical trigger that a person can recognize so that they can know, whoa, I've got to stop right here. Otherwise, I'm going to have an emotional experience that actually does hurt me because I choose to allow it to. I know that there are many different types of emotions and anxieties that people deal with. What type of emotional outbursts or emotional struggles are you dealing with, or are your children dealing with? Put them in the chat below. I'd like to see those, and if I can, I'll respond to give you some additional help. Step number 4 is focus on calmness. With this particular foster daughter, we helped her create a plan for how she could choose to be calm. She had a calm spot. She had a type of breathing that she was going to do. She was going to close her eyes and breathe in and breathe out and think to herself, be calm. It's okay. I don't need to worry. It's okay. This calm plan was vital. In fact, if you don't have a calm plan for yourself, or if your children don't have a calm plan, I actually have a free calm parenting toolkit. In the description of this video, you can click a link to a calm parenting toolkit, and it's a mini course that you can have for free that could hopefully help you be able to master your calmness. There is a 6-step process that I taught this foster child for how to be calm when she felt like she was going to get emotional and explode. So focusing on calmness and making a plan for how and where you are going to go to get calm is vital. Number 5, applying the skills. So the real problem that this foster daughter was having was that she wasn't using the skills every time she could. She was afraid of getting in trouble. She was afraid of being corrected. She had a skill for that already. It was called accepting a consequence. There are multiple steps to accepting a consequence. You look at the person, keep a calm face, voice, and body. You say okay, or you ask to disagree appropriately, and then you do the consequence, and then you check back from doing the consequence and drop the subject. So she had all of the skills in place. We practiced them, but in the minute, her emotions got the better of her so that she wasn't utilizing the skill. So after we create a calmness plan and we know how to utilize it, then we can better use the skills that we need for our personal self-government anyway. So she needed to remember to use the skill accepting a consequence. Part of that skill is that you either say okay or ask to disagree appropriately. That disagree appropriately skill is another very useful skill for a person who is experiencing some sort of emotional sensation. When a person is getting angry or frustrated, having an emotional outburst and not regulating their emotions, it's because they're seeking to be understood. They want someone to know where they're coming from, what's bothering them, and to help them fix the problem. But they're going about it all wrong. So if you want someone to be able to regulate their emotions, then what you need to do is give them a skill for how to do that. The disagree appropriately skill is the perfect skill for a person who is needing to regulate their emotions. When a person disagrees appropriately, they look at the person, they keep a calm face, voice, and body. They say that they understand the other person's point of view. They share their point of view. They listen to what the other person has to say, and then they say okay and drop the subject. This opens the door to more open communication. Step number 6 is to make a plan. So with this foster daughter, we decided that her plan would be, as soon as she felt the sweaty palms, then she would tell herself what was not true, what was true. She would get calm, and then she would disagree appropriately. And if the disagree appropriately didn't work, then she would say okay and drop the subject. At that point, she would accept whatever consequence she might have earned that she needed to be corrected for. And that after that, there would be praise and other positive consequences to teach her cause and effect and to show her that good things happen when she chooses to use her skills instead of choosing to have anxiety and getting out of problems with her emotional outbursts. Step number 7 is to take small steps. When a person is working on regulating their emotions, they are overcoming a habit. We have to remember that. Habits are hard to break. They are formed bit by bit over time. And when a person tries to break that habit, they aren't perfect at first. So please have patience and remember that as you're working with this child. This means that sometimes they'll do it well and sometimes they won't. When I say take small steps, what I mean is that at first it's okay to remind them of a couple of things in the plan, such as now disagree appropriately. Okay, keep a calm face, voice, and body. Say this. It's okay to nurture them along. If they follow those directions bit by bit, then they truly are trying to regulate their emotions in the minute. Have patience. Spoon feed them little step after little step. Over time, they won't need that. It's just at first. It could take maybe a few weeks of that spoon feeding before they get it down. If you've enjoyed this video about regulating emotions, I know you'll like my next video, which is how to understand, identify, and release your emotions. So click on that link now, and I'll see you there.